The sun had barely risen over the dusty horizon of central Texas. And in the stillness of the morning, the only sound was the wind, whispering through the dry grass in the distance. A faint plume of smoke rose into the sky, carrying with it the smell of something burning. The heat already clung to the air, oppressive and thick, as though it was trying to suffocate any hope of relief. By the side of a winding dirt road, near a secluded ranch, lay the body of Deputy Jake Riley. His car had veered off the road, its tires spinning uselessly in the dirt. He had been shot execution style, the evidence clear, in the blood-stained dirt beside his overturned truck. The familiar scent of gunpowder lingered in the air, thick, like the promise of something dangerous on the horizon. At the edge of Cedar Springs, a small, rural town where everyone knew each other's business, the first stirrings of life were just beginning. A few cows bellowed in the fields, their low moans echoing off the empty buildings that lined the main street. The town, founded on ranching and old family values, had always been quiet, too quiet, some said, but not today. The symbol carved into it's the McAllister family crest, the most powerful name in Cedar Springs. It was a symbol that spoke of power, influence, and a history that ran so deep in the land that no one had ever dared challenge it. Not until today. The question hanging in the air was the same one that everyone was asking. Who killed Jake Riley, and why? Cedar Springs might not be a place you'd expect to find on the tourist map, but that was the beauty of it. A small town nestled in the heart of Texas. It had a charm that drew in both weary travelers passing through and families who had lived there for generations. Cedar Springs was a simple, quiet town with old oak trees and small shops. Daisy's Diner was always busy, serving locals and visitors who wanted to enjoy a taste of Texas. However, there were hidden problems in the town. The McAllister family was the most powerful, controlling the land, business, and even the law. They owned a lot of land and had a big influence over everything in Cedar Springs. But even they couldn't control everything. Cedar Springs looked like a perfect small town. Sunday football games and kids on bikes filled the streets. Everyone knew each other, and the biggest choice was church or the bar. But tension was always there. Families fought over land, and newcomers wanted in. Rumors of corruption and disappearances were growing. In Cedar Springs, right and wrong blurred like a hot, distant horizon. Maggie Dawson never planned to return to Cedar Springs. She had left for Dallas, chasing a career in law enforcement, but her past had pulled her back. The news of Jake Riley's death came early, a text from Sheriff Cody Harris. Maggie had known Jake for years. They'd worked together in Dallas. He was a good cop, but now he was gone. Maggie needed to know why. The long drive from Dallas brought memories flooding back. Cedar Springs was quiet, but something felt different, like a storm was coming. Maggie parked outside the sheriff's office and stepped out, her boots echoing on the pavement. Sheriff Cody Harris, looking much like he did in their youth, but more weathered, stood at the door, clearly not thrilled to see her. There was no turning back now. "Maggie," Cody said gruffly, "I didn't think you'd come back." "I didn't plan on it," she replied, glancing around the town. "What happened to Jake?" Cody sighed. "I don't know, but it doesn't look good." Maggie nodded, determined to find answers. She paused outside the sheriff's office, looking over Cedar Springs. The town seemed the same, but something felt off, as if old secrets were surfacing. A few locals nodded at Maggie as an old truck sputtered by. The town felt the same, but Maggie knew the quiet life she'd left was gone. The saying you can leave Cedar Springs, but it never leaves you echoed in her mind. Cody stepped out, his look softer, seeing not just the detective, but the girl who was once his best friend. Something unspoken lingered between them. "Don't look so serious, Maggie," he said with a crooked smile. "You haven't changed a bit, but hell, it's good to see you again, even under these circumstances." She gave him a tight smile in return. "I wouldn't say I've changed much, either. Cedar Springs has a way of doing that to a person, keeping them stuck in place." They stood in the dusty hallway of the sheriff's office. Maggie felt the years between them, but their bond lingered. "You were always hard-headed, Mags," Cody said softly. "I need your help." The town's tense. "Yeah?" Maggie asked. "What's happening?" Cody leaned in. "Jake got into something big. He couldn't let it go." Maggie's gut twisted. Jake's death wasn't random. It had to do with the McAllisters. The sound of boots on gravel pulled Maggie from her thoughts. She looked up to see Antonio Lopez approaching. "Morning, Sheriff," Antonio said, tipping his hat. He smiled at Maggie. "Maggie Dawson, back from the city. How you been?" Maggie smiled. Antonio had a way of lightening the mood, despite everything he'd been through. "I've been good," Maggie said. "What's going on with Jake?" Antonio's smile faded. "Jake got too close to the truth. The McAllisters don't like that." He glanced at Cody, who nodded in agreement. Maggie turned to Cody. "I need to talk to the McAllisters. If they're involved, I'll make them pay." Cody sighed. "You don't know what you're getting into, Maggie. The McAllisters control everything. Be ready to fight or run." Maggie's eyes hardened. "I didn't come back to run. If they're behind this, I'll take them down." Antonio chuckled. "You've always been stubborn, Maggie." "Let's hope that's enough." Maggie gave a small smile. "I'll need help, Antonio. The McAllisters are dangerous, but I'll handle them." Cody's gaze lingered on her. "I'll go with you, Mags. But be careful. This isn't Dallas people here. Don't forget, especially not the McAllisters." The trio got into the truck, the investigation starting. The heat pressed down, adding to the weight of their task. The drive to the McAllister estate felt long. Dust rose from the dirt roads, settling over the ranches, perfect on the surface but hiding secrets. Maggie sat tense in the passenger seat. Cody gripped the wheel, silent. It wasn't just the case on his mind. It was her. They'd always had a connection, but she had left. Now she was back and things were complicated. "You sure about this?" Cody asked. "I know they're hiding something," Maggie replied. "I'll find out." Cody's voice softened. "I don't want you hurt." Maggie's heart skipped, but she forced a smile. "I'll be fine," Antonio in the back whistled. "How about getting past their security?" "You distract them," Maggie said. Antonio grinned. "If it goes wrong, I'm out. Don't worry," Cody said. "We've got this." As they approached the McAllister estate, Maggie was amazed by its size. The old ranch house looked strong, with weathered stone walls. Fields stretched as far as she could see. The tall iron gates ahead were lined with cameras. The estate felt like a fortress, isolated from the town. The McAllisters kept to themselves. Cody pulled up, and a voice came through the speaker. "State your business," it said coldly. Cody responded, "Sheriff Harris. I need to see Mr. Tath McAllister about Jake Riley." After a pause, the voice replied, "Hold on, I'll notify the family." The gates opened, revealing a long driveway. Maggie could feel the power of the place. There were secrets here, and she intended to find them. They pulled up, and Ethan McAllister emerged from the shadows. He had sharp features like his father, his eyes cold and calculating. lingered on Maggie a moment too long. "Ethan," Maggie said, arms crossed, "we need to talk about Jake Riley." "Of course," he replied, smiling thinly. "Come inside." Maggie knew he wasn't here to help. He wanted to keep secrets buried inside. The house felt cold, grand, but unwelcoming. "You've heard about Jake's death," Cody said. "What was he working on?" Ethan's smile faded for a moment. "He had many projects. You'll figure it out." Maggie knew Jake had uncovered something dangerous, and Ethan was hiding it. The McAllister estate only heightened the tension. Ethan's politeness felt like a mask. Something about Jake's death didn't add up. Cody's anger was barely contained. As they left, the amber light of the setting sun filled the air. Silence filled the truck. The truth seemed close, and so did the tension between her and Cody. Cody's look stirred old feelings in Maggie. The chemistry between them was undeniable. She glanced at him, his tight grip on the wheel, and clenched jaw showed he was holding something back. Was it from her? "What are you thinking, Cody?" Maggie asked quietly. Cody's grip tightened. "Ethan's hiding something. It's bigger than Jake's death. More dangerous." Maggie nodded, but sensed more. Cody's stiffness and silence said it all. "Cody," she said softly, "it's not just the case, it's us." Cody glanced at her, then back to the road. After a pause, he admitted, "You're right, it's always been there." It never faded. Maggie's heart raced. Their connection had never disappeared. As they neared the motel, Maggie didn't want to leave. The air was thick with unsaid words. Cody parked. Silence filled the truck. Maggie hesitated, then reached for his hand. "I've never stopped caring," Cody whispered. Maggie nodded, her heart pounding. "Neither have I." And then without a word, they closed the space between them. Their lips met in a slow, tentative kiss, as if they were both unsure of what it might mean. As the kiss deepened, the world seemed to fade away. Years of longing, regret, and desire rushed to the surface, overwhelming them. Maggie's fingers tangled in Cody's hair, pulling him closer. She felt the warmth of his body against hers, a sensation she had almost forgotten. For a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the case, the danger, or the secrets. Just the taste of his lips, and the feel of his arms around her. Breathless, Cody and Maggie pulled away. Eyes locked, Maggie whispered, "We can't let this distract us from the case." Cody nodded. Those eyes betrayed him. "I know, but for a moment it feels like I have you back." Maggie felt the pull, but knew they had to focus. Jake Riley's death, and the McAllisters were at the center of it. They needed answers. "I'll be inside tomorrow." "We dig deeper," she said, with new determination. Cody gave a sad smile. "I'll be here always." Maggie stepped out of the truck, overwhelmed by the kiss, but determined to focus on the case. The McAllisters were hiding something, and she was set on uncovering the truth. In her motel room, thoughts of Cody lingered, but she couldn't afford distractions. A text from him broke her reverie. He wanted to meet at the diner. They discussed the case at the diner, realizing the McAllisters were tied to something bigger, possibly organized crime. As tension grew between them, they vowed to face the storm together. Later they headed to the McAllister ranch, prepared for the confrontation ahead. As they neared the truth, tension between them grew. Their emotions became harder to control, and they wondered if their attraction would distract them from the case. A storm was coming that would change everything. Ethan McAllister watched them confidently. From behind his desk, he had the upper hand, and Maggie knew they were facing real danger now. "So what do you think you found?" Ethan asked smoothly. Maggie accused him of illegal activities. Ethan's smile faltered, but he denied it. Cody added, they had enough proof to take him down. But Ethan remained calm, suggesting they were chasing shadows. Before Ethan could respond, Cody received word that his family was making their move. Maggie and Cody rushed to the McAllister ranch. Determined to win, it wasn't just about money anymore. It was about saving lives at the ranch. Noel, the whistleblower, called to say the evidence was hidden in the barn. They hurried there, but Ethan and his men appeared. It was a trap. Gunfire erupted. Cody was shot, but Maggie managed to retrieve the documents. Sirens sounded in the distance, and Ethan's time was up. A week later, the McAllisters were in custody, their empire collapsing. Maggie and Cody stood together, watching the aftermath. Maggie wondered if it was truly over, and Cody reassured her it was for Cedar Springs. As they stood side by side, they knew the road ahead would be tough. But together they could face anything. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.